Antara Capital is doing it again. Ladies and gentlemen, Antara Capital has now sold more APE stock. And this is almost on a day by day by day basis. And they are such a large holder of APE that they just sell millions of shares every couple of days. And nobody really thinks too much of it. Now, specifically, there's one reason why this is important. And we'll get into that here in this video. I also want to look at kind of the lower valuation that AMC does have relative to the entertainment peers. This article says little excitement about AMC Entertainment Holdings revenues. And it really goes on to talk about the price to sales ratio of AMC Entertainment, being that a lot of price to sale ratios for entertainment companies is 1.3 to 4. That's not uncommon. Well, AMC is not even close to that. So I do want to talk about these two things as well as everything that is happening in the markets today. Get you guys caught up to speed with GameStop earnings, with how AMC is reacting, the good, the bad, everything here in this video. So let's get into it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. So I actually want to start with this, the valuation proposition for AMC. It says, you may think that with a price to sales or PS ratio of 0.6 times, AMC Entertainment is a stock worth checking out, seeing as almost half of all entertainment companies in the United States have a price to sales ratio greater than 1.3 times, and even price to sales higher than 4 times aren't out of the ordinary. Although it's not wise to just take the PE or the PS at face value, as there may be an explanation why it's limited. Now, they go on to say that maybe it's limited because essentially you could just expect lower revenues. You could expect, lower profits out of this company in the future. But it does go on to say that AMC has actually been performing very well. I mean, last year's revenue growth, the company posted an increase of 29%. And it says that the company's revenue should grow 6.9% each year over the next 3 years. The rest of the industry is forecast to expand 9.7% per year, which is noticeably more attractive. Now, I would argue with these numbers, I don't think that AMC is going to be one of the worst performers in the entertainment sector, especially as they have the popcorn business now and so many other different things that they are doing. I think AMC is really going to outperform most people's expectations. Now, AMC is back to pre-COVID levels as far as a market cap is concerned. So I really don't think there's a huge risk of the stock dropping exponentially from here, unless there's always going to be the unless or the but, unless they just can't get back to profitability, unless they continue to lose more and more money, which that again looks unlikely unless there were a Roni wave that was just unprecedented. And in China, that's happening. We don't expect that here. So I don't think there's too much to worry about on an actual fundamental basis with AMC. I think a lot of that downside risk to AMC losing too much money going ahead has somewhat already been priced into AMC to the fullest extent. Even as of recently, the stock dropped from $6 to $4 per share, and you're really trading around $4.50 right now. So there's not a lot of that downside left, in my personal opinion. That's why I think over the next couple of weeks, there is such a big opportunity. You're going to have the next court date on June 29th. Now, June 29th is going to be a very important day because that's essentially going to more than likely be the final read on the court situation. If it ultimately will lead to a settlement and then this dilution or this reverse split going through, we'll kind of know by June 29th. Now, AMC historically, every time they raised capital in the past, the stock rallied, right? It rallies hundreds of percents most of the time. So I think this is an interesting catalyst because historically, AMC raises capital, stock rallies. Well, also, if you do go ahead and think about this in simpler terms, a lot of people are short on AMC that otherwise would not be short on AMC. They're short on AMC because they think massive dilution is coming. Well, if that massive dilution never comes, well, a lot of shorts are caught off sides, and they not necessarily would want to be short on AMC. And I think that would also give you a squeeze. So I do think let me be real, the probabilities, if you want to put it in a percentage, that we rise or fall June 29th, I think it's around 65% rise, 35% fall. That's kind of where I'm putting these, because there is that chance that the judge just says, yeah, you're good to go, dilute the stock as much as you want, and in the short term you do sell off, and then subsequently you do rally after that. That's what typically happens when AMC does raise capital. Now, it's possible there needs to be more investigations, they need to postpone this court date. All in all, I think that would be a positive for AMC share price in the short term. Now, one would argue that AMC needs to raise capital, and that would be fundamentally positive. Well, we'll see. You can really make a strong argument to both sides here, and I think the ultimate outcome is a bullish one. Now, this makes me incrementally more bullish every time I see one of these filings. It's Antara Capital that just sold another 1.4 million shares of APE. They sold for an average price of $1.59 for a total value of $2.25 million. And they're basically selling every other day. It's what it seems like, and it's usually around the same amount. They're usually selling in between $1 and $2 million worth of APE stock, and they went from owning almost 300 million shares of APE. Now they only own 141 million shares of APE. If you thought this was a home run trade, and certainly if you're in Antara Capital, you have more information than us, wouldn't you just hold your shares for another month? Wouldn't that, if you knew you were going to double up your money, wouldn't you just hold on to it? That's like if you had a lottery ticket, right? And you seen it was like 25,000. But somebody said that you can hold it to maturity for another month and they'll give you 50,000. Well, you probably hold it for another month if all things were, created equal and you were actually going to get paid out. It wasn't a fraud, so on and so forth. So every time I see Antara Capital selling more shares of AMC, or APE, really, I mean, that makes me more bullish. That makes me think that maybe they don't have a lot of confidence in this trade. Maybe they are looking at this like it could go against them, and they want to make sure they get their initial investment back on APE shares. So I think this is very interesting. This was dated for June 5th, so a couple days old. That's typically how it works. It takes a couple of days to actually get these filings to come through and to get the paperwork filed, essentially. So I do think that is incrementally positive. Now, AMC stock, if we go ahead and take a look at the charts, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, AMC stock is down 1.27%, catching a bid from the bottom as we head closer to the end of the day today. Now, if we look at GME, well, kind of the same story. GME kind of ripped from the open and has been trading in between this range of $20.50 on the low end and $21.78 on the high end. You've kind of been in this range. You have been trending to the upside, but as I indicated, AMC would likely benefit more from a positive GME earnings and fall less from a bad GME earnings. Now, obviously, one would say AMC and GME are different companies, but they do have that sympathy relationship. But that thesis was mainly based off of the fact that AMC has been falling precipitously over the last couple of weeks. Now, if you look at AMC over the last really 2 days now, 3 days, the last couple candles here, you're seeing some big hammer candlesticks. And these are very symbolic of rallies, of essentially the selling pressure getting exhausted and the stock trending to the upside into the close. So it looks like the sellers are getting exhausted here. And that's exactly what you want to see if you are hoping for a rally in AMC stock. Now, I think relatively shortly, you're going to make your move back to about $5 per share before the next court date, June 29th. Now, it's up for debate if we get news before June 29th or not. I think we personally will get news, but it's possible that we don't. and it's just dry and nothing happens until June 29th. And then ultimately that day would be the big catalyst. Keep in mind, last time we got news on the courts, well, AMC stock dropped about 23.5% that day. And then subsequently what happened? Well, you dropped and the stock started to rip. Well, what's happened ever since? You've dropped down to the same levels that you were at, the last court update we got, which was on April 4th. You're back at these levels. Wouldn't surprise me to see a rip from here. That's kind of what I would expect and kind of what I am expecting from AMC as of right now. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the option activity here with AMC stock as well. If we look, it's pretty even today, actually. The volume on the call side, 74,000. Volume on the put side, 72,000. Ask or above, 31,000 on the put side, 27,000 on the call side. The bid or below at about 43,500, and the bid or below on the put side is at about 35,000. Now, between the market, looks like about 3,500 calls and 6,800 puts. So calls are winning out here today. You've kind of seen this number ramp up as the stock price is also ramped up. You're also getting a little bit less of those deep in the money puts that are being placed on AMC today. You're seeing a lot more of the $6 puts that are being placed. And really, when these hedge funds are paying 150, 200, I mean, it makes the break evens a lot lower. So for an example, these July 21st $6 puts, they spent $236 on this. So let's just make sure we're 100% correct here on the math, and we'll go ahead and type it in the calculator here. 6 minus 2.36, your break even is $3.64. So that means market makers, they don't really have to go out and short AMC until the stock gets to $3.64. You're currently at $4.65. So about $1 fall you would have to see from here before market makers would have to go out and hedge stock. So some of these options that you're seeing here today don't affect the stock nearly as much. Even on the June 16th, some of these $6 puts that are coming through, these hedge funds are paying $151 for these options. You minus that by 1.51, and their break even is $4.49. And that's, I mean, the stock's at $4.66. So the stock would have to fall from here and really close towards the lows of the day and break under those lows to see market makers have to short. So you're getting a little bit less of that activity actually happening here today. Those options that really hurt AMC are those $10 puts, those $13 puts that are, at their basically at the share price's current break even. That's when market makers have to go out and short a bunch of shares of AMC. Nonetheless, if we go ahead and take a look at the overview here from Ortex, you got a short score of 93, $533.29 million worth of short positions in AMC. Estimated short interest of free float at 21.84%. Free float out on loan at 36%. Shares out on loan 186 million. Days to cover 7.86. 64.35% cost to borrow over the last 3 months. 100% share utilization. If we take a look at the cost to borrow fees currently on the day, you got about 112% for the cost to borrow average, cost to borrow max 306%, cost to borrow minimum at about 50%. So cost to borrow fees have definitely went substantially higher here today as well. Now, looking ahead, you got an earnings here and after hours. It's going to be kind of volatile, kind of wild, but it's the DocuSign, and I think that one has a potential to move pretty big here. But as of what's happening in the broad markets, you did get initial jobless claims that came in worse than expectations, about 28,000 additional jobs that were lost over the last week. Now, this tends to be a weird kind of data point because some weeks are stronger, some weeks are not. The stronger weeks you get, meaning that just more jobs are lost. I'm referring to strong. I guess I shouldn't put it that way. The next week tends to be back down to the low 200,000 range. So you did get a drop in bond yields today that did fuel a boost in technology. NASDAQ is up almost 1%. S&P up 0.5%. Russell 2000 is down 0.5%. Now, what you actually seen yesterday is the Bank of Canada come out and raise rates after they had previously paused for 3 months. This really priced the rate cuts out of this market. So instead of pricing in 3 or 4 rate cuts by the end of this year, you're expecting 1 rate cut in November, and then that's it. 1 rate cut in January as well to really start off 2024. Now, in a weird way, the rate cuts getting priced out of this market is lowering your probability of a recession, right? 1 rate cut by the end of 2024, that's going to signal that there's some weakness somewhere, right? Maybe it's in GDP, maybe it's in the labor market, who knows, some weakness, or inflation just falls a lot. I mean, those are your 2 outcomes, and inflation falling would be a soft landing. So the soft landing looks a little bit more likely here now than it did before, but I do think we're going to go back and forth here, and big tech overall is going to come down. As Marko Kolanovic said yesterday, big tech looks like a bubble, and that is the head of global investing for JP Morgan. They do like the whole world and cover everything. He says big tech looks like a bubble, that it really doesn't have any value at these levels. So, and that obviously does put pressure on hedge funds, institutions to cover on short positions. They can only use high quality stocks as collateral for AMC short positions. And then that's where it puts a lot of pressure on those hedge funds, guys. So that is going to do it here for this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.